from monsters and ghosts to otherworldly beings. Join the Explorers as they venture into the darkest realms, seeking the truth to what goes bump in the night.
Good evening and welcome to Explorers, Seekers of the Truth, episode 16. Tonight, as always, I'm joined by my best friend, co-host extraordinaire, Les Sienkiewicz. So how are you doing today, buddy?
Awesome. Those kind words, How you doing, brother?
Oh, man, I'm lovely.
Yeah. You know, Chad had me borderline panicked because it was 10 minutes before the show started. I didn't hear from him. He wasn't answering my text, and I thought for a brief moment I would have to do the show tonight solo. I was a little scared, but you know, he never leaves me hanging. So hey, Cleo.
Hey,
And
Cleo.
you never leave us hanging either, Cleo. Thank you again for joining in. Good to see you here tonight. So yeah, I'll go through my usual spiel or shtick or whatever you want to call it. As always, as we always say, you guys could get in touch with us through the show tonight. BeLive has a cool little feature. If you guys comment underneath the, I guess, the little show post on Facebook, it'll register in BeLive's interface, and we could kind of go back and forth. And aside from that, you could find us at our website, www.explorersgroup.com. You could get in touch with us on Twitter. Our handle is @ExplorersGroup, and Facebook, which we actually updated this. I didn't get to do it inside the show note, but it's facebook.com/ExplorersGroup. So that's just, let me get that off the screen. That's just another way. Yay, I said it right. That's another way for everybody to follow us and interact. And, you know, like we always say, anything you want to hear on the show, anything you want to talk about, if you've had any kind of personal encounters, whether it be paranormal, cryptid, or extraterrestrial, we'd love to hear about it. And hell, even if you'd be willing to talk about your story, we'll bring you on the show. But that's about all I've got to say about that.
Yeah, I actually, wanted to thank everybody that does tune in and listens and, follows us on the different, multimedia forms that we're covering right now. You guys have given us some really good suggestions as of late, some suggestions for guests, topics, and, the different things that you'd like to hear about. So just so you know, we are working on a lot of them. We're hoping to make, 2018 the year of, getting a lot of those people in and on the show. And, we do understand some people schedule wise, it may not work out at times, or, some people may be a little bit above our station right now. So, if somebody doesn't come on right now, don't be worried or don't think we're not listening. We are definitely, in contact with a lot of the people that you guys have suggested. So, I just really want to thank you guys all for that.
And, we might have better luck. And I want to thank everybody, too. Thank you so much for participating, listening to the show, commenting throughout the show. We love you guys. We want you to keep coming back, and we really hope that we are doing a good show. But in part to what Chad was saying about getting in touch with some special guests and stuff like that, we really love interviewing people just as much as we hope that you guys love hearing the shows while we have people on. But it would help getting people on if I don't screw up the messages to them on Facebook, huh?
Yeah,
I'm sending a message to a hopeful guest, and I copy and pasted from a previous message and prematurely hit send. And I felt like an idiot.
Yeah, I try to keep a blanket contact thing, like where it's just blank, and I just kind of like have to pop in a name quick and send it to them. But I've done that too. I've accidentally sent times where I've sent stuff to people and been like, "Ooh, I didn't even put the right name in that one."
Right, and before I could try and delete it or retract it, I had seen that they had read it, and I was like, "Oh, I am a dummy."
Yeah, it happens. I mean, I look at it this way. They probably could take a joke and probably realize they've probably done it at least 10 times themselves when they were doing things. So,
but with my history with career and everything, I have that knack of sending out the wrong thing at the wrong time. Lost a couple jobs over that. But
yeah, you have.
Yeah, it's still, some things never change. So we've been seeing some things circulating around the internet. I'm sure as all you fans of cryptozoology and all things strange have been seeing on the different group pages that fills your feed on Facebook. So we like to look through some of those, and Chad and I usually talk about them throughout the week. We're like, oh, did you see that? And we'll talk about something. So we're gonna, when we find one that we really like, we're gonna call it the oddity of the week. And we did find one. If I could bring it up here. And it just so happens to be on a gentleman's Facebook page or blog page, or yeah, I guess it's a blog. It's Mr. Lon Strickler. He has a really cool blog site out there called phantomsandmonsters.com. And one of the posts that he had put up there on Tuesday the 16th was mysterious UFOs, Bigfoot, and cryptid encounters reported across Pennsylvania in 2017. And that was from, I believe, from researcher Stan Gordon, really cool guy. Check out some of his stuff. But the thing that we found most interesting, and I lost the section of where it was, is ironically one of the, I guess, Bigfoot related reports that was in the post that Lon has up there that Stan put together was in Schuylkill County, Pennsylvania. And that's actually where Chad and I both grew up. We went to high school and elementary school and everything there. And we thought it was kind of neat to put it in there. Do you want to read that portion, or do you want me to take it?
You can take it. I actually don't have that popped up right this second.
All right. Okay. I wasn't sure. I just figured rather than having everybody listen to me, I'd give you a chance to talk. You know how I ramble. But so in the section of the post, Stan has said about for many years, residents along the Chestnut Creek area of Westmoreland County, which is on the western side of the state, they're familiar with the sounds of the local wildlife and have been reporting loud howls and screams that they couldn't identify. However, in January, very long, high-pitched siren-like screams were again reported. 2 days later, from the other end of the state in Schuylkill County, which is on the eastern side of the state, very similar sounds were also heard. The witness involved was a wildlife biologist who heard the sounds on 3 different occasions within 2 days and tried to record the vocalizations. The scientist who was trained to identify animal sounds was unable to do so. So that was kind of interesting that there was, that kind of occurrence in our old neck of the woods.
Yeah, I mean, there has been an increase in the last couple of years with sightings and stories coming out from, Schuylkill County, Carbon County, and stuff like that. Some of the stories are a lot, older, from like the 70s and 80s, but people I think are becoming more, more comfortable with talking about them. And there's more people like us that are, kind of actively out there promoting the subject matter. So a lot more people are coming forward. But when you have stuff that's happening, over the summer and over this past year, it's very recent, it's very fresh. And, for somebody who is a wildlife biologist who is, kind of trained on those sounds and what, oh, it sounded like this, or it sounded like that, or it could be this, does not have a definitive, oh, I heard a coyote, I know it was a coyote, discount it, it's a coyote or a fox, right. Or something.
Right. Well, it's kind of like one of those, I mean, and don't get me wrong, I'm not a scientist by any means. I'm not a biologist, although I have trained myself to recognize certain sounds, especially within my local area. I'm very familiar with the different sounds that the native creatures of my portion of Pennsylvania make. Like, for anybody who has never heard a vixen fox cry in the middle of the night, you would be horribly surprised at what that sounds like. It is the most god-awful noise. It sounds like a demonic woman screaming in the night. And a lot of people don't recognize that. And for anybody who wouldn't be familiar with that sound, could be taken back and be frightened by what it is. So I had actually the one night my wife was, and I'm sure we talked about this before. She was downstairs watching TV with the kids were sleeping, and she heard. Now we used to live on a farm. It was very rural. It was on 150 acres, private acres, and yeah, Jason, you know what I'm talking about. Jason commented there. He was my neighbor from this area that I'm talking about. He was across the way, so he knows all about this because I wouldn't stop talking to him about it. But the one night she was watching TV, and we always have coyotes. Jason, you could attest to this. We always have coyotes, and I've actually seen a couple of coy wolves that have been moving into the area. So they're always around, and ironically, coyotes usually travel in like a bonded or breeding pair. And when there are larger numbers, it's usually a family. But when they're without pups, it's usually just the male and female. Where this area was, we would always hear numerous sounds. So it could be coy wolves, which travel in larger packs, but we would hear the coyotes, and they're very distinct. Coyotes have a very distinct sound. Well, the coyotes were in the front yard. She heard them going off, and they were they were more rambunctious than usual. And then they just kind of ran off. And then in the distance, now I had a lot of activity on this property for anybody who goes to our sister Facebook page, which is the Sasquatch ATV research team. We have a lot of what happened on that property on that page. I basically started that page or that group dedicated to the personal experiences I was having. And Chad, you were with me on a lot of them. You found some tracks and whatnot while we were there. Don't know what they were. I'm not saying they're Bigfoot or anything like that, but we can't explain what they are. But anyway, the coyotes were in the yard, clear as day. They took off faster than usual. In the distance, you could hear what sounded like your atypical Bigfoot sound, just that woo, woo, just very odd, high pitch. Didn't sound anything like the coyotes. And I have hundreds, if not thousands, of dollars worth of equipment for paranormal investigating, looking for Bigfoot or cryptozoological creatures. I have a bionic ear in my possession. When I'm not using it, it's buried in the bottom of my gearbox, which was always in my basement. And I was up on the second story in my home office at the time, and I was working on a project for a client. And this was about around midnight, like 12, 1 o'clock in the morning. And all I had to record this was my cell phone. And I did get a recording of it, the audio. Chad so graciously put it into a video form so we could actually put it up on the YouTube and the Facebook for people to hear. So you guys could either visit our YouTube channel, which I don't have the actual link because it's all numbers. It's not like a YouTube/Xplorers group. We're trying to fix that. But you could check it out on our YouTube. You could get to our YouTube channel through our website, though. Just go to the live shows and click one of them. It'll take you there. But anyway, we have the audio on there if you guys wanted to check it out. It was very, very strange. I couldn't link it to any. I mean, if I were to link it to anything, I would have to just kind of randomly or sheepishly pin it to coyotes because it's the only thing that would be remotely close to what this sound was. And actually, Jason, who had commented, he and I were out the one day just kind of scouting around, looking at stuff. I was showing him the one area where I found what I thought was a track. I have a cast of it and everything. And while we were out there, we were hearing a lot of odd sounds, and we were hearing this sounded very similar to what I had heard before. And everywhere we went, this thing sort of paralleled us. I'm not saying it was a Bigfoot. It was something, though. There was something out there making some kind of a noise. I don't know if we were in like a coyote's immediate den or its home area, and they were just kind of following us, trailing us just to make sure that we weren't going to disrupt. Maybe we're near the den and they had pups. I don't know, but we did hear something. It was pretty odd. So yeah, I mean, to go back to the oddity of the week thing there about Schuylkill County, the weird noises. That's our neighboring county. I'm actually in Carbon County. There's odd things all over the eastern side of Pennsylvania, just as much as there is on the western side of Pennsylvania. Although most of the reports and most of the Pennsylvania-based encounters are more prevalent on the West Coast side, because I think there's larger groups out there that I would say post most of those. But there's a lot of activity on the East Coast.
Yeah, well, and I would also say with the eastern side of Pennsylvania, it's a little more, kind of mountainy, and there's a lot of more territory that people don't necessarily get out into a lot. There's a lot of places, you always see in the Old West, like these ghost towns. Well, if you start, driving around in some of the mountains up there, you'll find ghost towns that all that's left is the old stone wall structures, for the support of the house. And, the little mining village is completely gone. It's been gone for hundreds of years, and people don't even remember it being there.
Yep.
One of the areas where I used to hunt as a kid was, part of a coal mining area. And, you would walk out and you'd think you're out in the middle of nowhere in the woods. And all of a sudden you'd start seeing the piled stones from the old foundations.
Mm-hmm.
And you start asking the grandparents and stuff like that, and be like, oh, that used to be a little mining town that, when the mine moved, the people just moved, over further, moved into Buck Run and stuff like that. So,
Mm-hmm.
it's not that uncommon, in large areas like that for, people don't even remember that there used to be a town there. So people don't go out there often.
Right. Exactly. And if you look at our area on like Google Earth or something like that, there are large expansions of wilderness. They're like just forest, I mean, now granted, the western portion of of Pennsylvania has the Allegheny National Forest, and it's, very wilderness out there, you know what I mean? So I could understand how a lot of reports come from out there, because you would think the eastern side would be a little bit more overdeveloped, because it was, there's more history on this side of the state, I would say.
Well,
But,
let's face it. I mean, they don't call it Pennsyltucky for nothing. It's
that's
Philadelphia
right.
and Pittsburgh, and everything in between is Pennsyltucky.
Pretty much. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
It's part of the Appalachians. Yeah, we are kind of, in that group of people.
Yeah, unfortunately. Well, I mean, yeah, proudly, I should say. Proud to be a Pennsyltuckian. But
So,
anyway, go ahead. Sorry.
no, I was just going to kind of move us along into our topic for this evening. So, what are we talking about?
Bigfoot, I'll keep going on forever. Tonight, we are going to be talking about, I don't know, would you say it's a lesser known cryptid or more of the popular? I'd say it might be in between.
What's that?
I said it might be in between.
I think it depends how deep into cryptozoology people are. I think
True.
It's a very fragmented, certain people are, cryptozoology is just Bigfoot, and, everything else is kind of out there.
Right. And this one truly kind of teeters on the knife's edge of cryptozoology and prehistoric, if you will. Tonight we're going to be talking about the Mokele Mbembe, which is more or less a living dinosaur that is, I guess, rumored to exist in the Congo or the jungles of the Congo in Africa. And we have a little bit about what is the Mokele Mbembe. Well, according to a write-up on GenesisPark.com, in the swampy jungles of Western Africa, reports persist of an elephant-sized creature with smooth brownish-gray skin, a long, flexible neck, a very long tail as powerful as a crocodile's, and 3 clawed feet the size of frying pans. Now, over the past 3 centuries, native pygmies and Western explorers have told how the animals feed on the nut-like fruit off the riverbank and riverbank plants, and and keep to the deep pools and subsurface caves of the waters in the largely unexplored region. After a recent expedition there, 2 American researchers conclude that these stories refer to a real animal, not a myth. Fantastic as it seems, Roy Mackle from the University of Chicago and James Powell believe that this creature called Mokele Mbembe by the natives may actually be a dinosaur, perhaps one resembling a brontosaurus, or which is aptly been renamed Apatosaurus, which is thought to have died out 70 million years ago. Now, Roy Mackle's research regarding the Mokele Mbembe led him deep into the central swamps of the Congo, and he returned with numerous credible reports and a historic footprint photo, which we actually have that photo, and I'll bring it up quick for you guys. There it is. That's the 3-clawed frying pan sized dinosaur footprint. The photo that they had brought back from that expedition. Pretty interesting. And I think one of the things that kind of led us into this topic tonight is back in the 80s when we were just young lads and we had our budding interest in the world of the unknown, be it paranormal, cryptozoology, extraterrestrial. This has been our life, and this is no joke. We've been into all this stuff forever, and then as we got older and able to drive, we became more researchers than anything. You remember back in the day with your Jeep Wrangler, we used to cruise around with the top down and our safari hats on.
Good old pith helmet.
Oh yeah, we were nerds. But one of the things back in the 80s that on the Bigfoot side, we were always captivated by Harry and the Hendersons. That was one of our favorite movies, and the Legend of Boggy Creek. But one of the other cryptid movies that, again, which is a shoo-in and basically encompasses tonight's entire show, was a movie called Baby, Secret of the Lost Legend. It's a 1985 American adventure fantasy film directed by Bill L. Norton, and it starred William Catt and Sean Young. She was a scientist, and he was her husband, and they went into the jungles of the Congo, and they had native reports of. Actually, I have a picture of the cover of the Blu-ray. I actually found the Blu-ray. I have it, and I enjoy watching that over. I don't know if anybody remembers that, but it's basically the movie follows suit with a lot of the real life stories and legends where these explorers or researchers go into the Congo, based off of native folklore, and end up finding a family of sauropods, if you will. And it's cute. So if you ever get a chance to see it, we highly recommend it. But so that's tonight's topic, is the Mokele Mbembe. And now that I've rambled on, you want to talk about the region?
Yeah, tonight's region, when you think about the Congo River Basin, the Congo River itself is about 3,000 miles long. The actual river basin is about 1.5 million square miles. And when you think about 1.5 million square miles, that is a great expanse of land that is relatively unmolested and uninhabited at this point.
Mm-hmm.
And
other than tribal people.
Yeah, I mean, when you think of the tribal people of the region, you're not talking about 5,000 people living in one area. You may be talking a cluster of a couple hundred people living in that region. One of the other areas that we'll be talking about tonight is Lake Tele, which is a very strange lake in and of its own, which we'll get into a little bit later tonight, which is about 3.9 miles in length and about 3 miles wide. The average depth for it is only about 13 foot. So that's
that's huge. Like, not deep, but I mean the size of that's a big lake.
Yeah, and the lake itself, and we'll get like a little bit deeper into the lake and part of the myth that goes along with the lake and the creation of the lake. But it's almost perfectly round when you look at it.
almost crater shaped.
Well, that is kind of one of the theories on it. Is it could have been created by an impact from a meteorite. So
Cool.
Yeah. Did you say something?
Huh? Oh no, I said cool. Sorry.
Oh,
Go ahead.
It was really low in the background. Sorry about that. I need to get new headphones. It's driving me nuts at times. I honestly, at times, folks, I can barely hear Wes talk to me. My hearing is terrible also, but and this region is very swampy. And you got to look at the swamp that surrounds the river basin is probably about 49,000 square miles of swamp.
And that's the Lakwala Swamp
Yeah,
region is what
Lakwala,
you're referring to? Okay.
Which, to put that in a size comparison for Americans, that's the size of the state of New York. To give it, for our international audience, that's 140,000 square kilometer swamp, which is larger than Greece or Bulgaria.
That's a lot of swamp.
Yeah. And one of the things that a lot of the scientists, not just in the end of cryptozoology and stuff, they consider this the least explored swamp in the world.
And why is that?
Just because of the terrain, the getting to and from it. But they feel, since it is one of the least explored areas and explored swamps in the world, they feel that there will be numerous species discovered in this area. Yeah, basically walking is almost impossible. With the swamp itself, the depth of the swamp can vary several meters within a few steps.
Jeez.
So walking, swimming is made more complicated. Then again, you also have dense vegetation, and just thinking, like, they basically say, like, on the animal side of it, you have bees, you have venomous insects, leeches, and countless other vermin that will attack you as you try to make your way through this area. It's also known for its numerous diseases, including such feared infectious diseases as Ebola.
When can we get a plane ticket to go? This sounds so inviting.
Yeah, I mean, except for the Ebola, I'm pretty much, well, I could lose a couple pounds. So Ebola, we have medicine. We could probably live through it.
I hope. Well, if you think about it, that place is primarily inhabited by pygmy natives, small pygmies. We may resemble more pig than pygmies. I mean, we're over 6 feet, 300 pounders. I mean, we're big boys. We're not gonna weave our way through any jungle anytime soon.
Well, we could, but I mean, I think it would be mean to make them carry us most of the way.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Aye.
Yeah. Now, the climate also in that region, you also got to realize that's why some of the diseases are so prevalent and seem to sprout up from that area. Is the climate is basically a breeding ground for a lot of virus and bacteria and whatnot. So
I would imagine it's more of like a hot, muggy, humid, swampy, just stagnant. It's a festering pool of disease and
pretty much. I mean,
yeah,
I think they have a word for that, but I'm not going to use it because I'm not going to get in trouble for that one. Now, there is there's something very interesting about the lake areas and stuff like that in the swamp. This is also considered one of the largest areas and populations for gorillas. I said that all exciting, like gorillas.
Yeah. That is kind of interesting because usually they stick to more of the mountain, higher elevation areas.
Yeah, they have
100 lowland mountain gorillas.
Yeah, they basically, their estimate is somewhere about 125,000 gorillas in this area.
Wow.
There's chimpanzees. also in the area. Elephants. In the lakes, I mean, you have the crocodiles and crabs, shrimps, and mollusks that frequent the waterways. Now, kind of getting into Lake Tele. Now, basically, back in 2001, they created a nature preserve. It's called the Lake Tele Community Reserve, and basically, for all intents and purposes, it is only on paper. There is no actual effort to preserve any of this area actively going on by the government. And the lake is also very hard to access because there's no sizable rivers that flow to it. And there's no roads, of course, in this area.
Right.
And basically, it's tens of kilometers through swamp just to get to the lake. The origins. You gonna say something?
No. I was just going to say if you can't get in there by plane or anything like that, I would imagine there is no other way. I would imagine like a seaplane, like a one that could land on water, would be the only way to get into there.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, unless you're gonna swim, kayak, walk on what little bit of land. I mean, I guess that's even a region of the world where one of those fan boats that you see in the Everglades wouldn't even really work. There goes my idea of buying that the hover boat that I saw at that auction and us using it for investigations.
We could still use it anywhere around here, so I say you buy it. Yeah. And honestly, dude, I like you said about kayaking and even like traversing through the swamps, like swimming and hiking through it. With 4 different species of crocodile that inhabit that, no. Yeah. I don't even feel comfortable going anywhere near bodies of water in Florida, let alone out in the middle of a freaking African jungle swamp.
Oh, well, you remember us down in Myrtle Beach when we were going to look for that sweatshirt for your wife, and we're reading the signs. We're in a shopping thing, and it's like, do not hop over fence, alligators.
Yeah.
And then, of course, the fence ends, and it's marshland, and then it goes on to dry land and soda machines, and it's a list of all these venomous snakes and alligators and all this, and the fence does not completely exclude them from dry land.
No, and that surprised me, being that there's that, what was that, Barefoot Landing or something?
I think, it was Barefoot Landing. That's where that was.
Yeah, there's all that shopping and family, and then there's venomous snakes, crocodile signs everywhere. I'm like, how does that go together?
Yeah. So to kind of get back to Lake Tele, it is, like I said when we first started talking about this, is its origins are kind of a mystery. There are no major rivers, that flow to or from it. They're basically saying it's neither a volcanic structure or possibly a meteorite impact. There's a couple small streams that drain in and out of it, but nothing sizable to have a lake of that size. And they said, there is one thing that interested me about it. There's a lot of, pH acid levels and stuff like that we could get into. I don't think any of us really necessarily care about the pH level. It is greater than 4. If that means anything to anybody.
Only for people that have to regulate their own pool water know how much of a pain in the ass that is.
Yeah. There is a magnetic anomaly. This goes back to something we were talking about with ley lines and stuff like that. On the northern part of the lake, there is an anomaly. But that does not necessarily mean that the meteorite impact is the answer to how the lake was formed. Basically, what they're saying is that anomaly, not that it's specific, but it does show up in other parts of the world that are not meteorite impacts. Now, they don't really, I don't think they've ever researched it and to the sense of doesn't show up at dormant volcanoes also. Um, but it is towards the northern edges of the lake that this happens. And basically, the vegetation in this area is in the neighborhood of like 66,000 years old.
Oh my God.
So if it was a meteorite impact or anything like that, the scars would most likely have been covered over by the dense jungle and swamp areas.
Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, just that simple fact alone, knowing that the jungle itself is 66,000 years old. I mean, you're going back into easily the prehistoric, back to almost ice age times.
Well, actually, one thing I had heard, and I'm not 100% on the science of this, but this region of Africa has pretty much not changed for in the neighborhood of 70 to 100 million years. So environmentally, there are a lot of plants in this area that actually date back to dinosaurs.
You said it's been untouched for how 100 million years?
Close to 100 million years.
Well, if the science behind that is true, then there's absolutely no doubt that the possibility of a dinosaur surviving there, it's highly possible.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I mean, for a region, like when they say hasn't changed, like I said, there is plant life. Now it's not the plant from 70 million years ago or 100 million years ago,
Right,
but
the possible strain of it,
has continued to grow in these regions. There have been no mountain building events in that region, which is what ends up changing a lot of regions that were, from the dinosaur age, Jurassic and stuff like that, end up getting changed because of the plates colliding, creating more mountains, and water levels changing. This region, from what I have come to understand, has basically not been flooded out. It hasn't become an inland seaway or part of the ocean. There's been no mountain building events, and the plant life continues to flourish from, back from the prehistoric times. And the fact that you have crocodile and stuff like that, which are basically some of the closest descendants of dinosaurs. I mean, they are living dinosaurs in a lot of ways.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
So what can you tell us about the people of the region, Les?
Well, for tens of thousands of years at the rivers in Lakwala swamps lived the pygmy, like we were talking about before, the Mbembe people, who maintain the traditional hunter-gatherer lifestyle, which is in its own right very primitive. Up to this day they do that, and it's not known with certainty whether these are evil rumors or truth, but the other local people tell that the pygmies of the Lakwala swamps are cannibals up to this day as well, which is not surprising, a surprising fact given that there's tribes down in the Amazon jungle that still practice cannibalism. And I know, go ahead.
Yeah, I was just going to continue on with what you were saying there. I mean, cannibalism is not in modern, Western civilization is considered taboo, but people have done it to survive. Right. Cannibalism in basically prehistoric or, non-technologically advanced societies is sometimes it's considered a honor to eat your enemy, and sometimes it is a factor of it's a sign of dominance. Right. So it has a lot to do with the cultural end of it, but it's not necessarily that far-fetched. I mean, people are still living in these prehistoric almost existences, and culturally I don't think cannibalism it's I guess that's a way of kind of making them look bad by these other tribes, but at the same time, I wouldn't doubt that those other tribes don't partake in cannibalism too.
Right, right. That's true. Well, in part of that, some of the settlements of the Mbenga people have been noticed at the northern bank of the Lake Tele, but most likely these are temporary settlements, so they're kind of all over the area. And he's done it to me again. He's just up and left. There you are, once again.
I need
the bow.
I need wireless headphones so when I get up and walk around, because I can talk anywhere in this room and you hear me.
Yeah, I was just like, there he goes again, just up and leaves in the middle of something I was saying. The Boa villagers are regarded as the owners of the lake, and this is said by Ed McSweeney. I guess he was one of the people in the expeditions, in the past expeditions. The Boa villagers are also familiar with areas in the river and swamps where we can observe these animals, for ourselves. However, in the general belief that, speaking of Mokele Mbembe, to white outsiders, these villagers believe that if they speak of the Mokele Mbembe to explorers, primarily white explorers, that that'll result in great misfortune or even death. And that belief is fairly prevalent throughout the Lakwala region. And this presents huge problems when, people try and go in there and gather information or talk to the locals or the natives and stuff like that to try and get more of the stories. They're afraid to do that because the fear, because, most tribal people or non-technologically advanced people regard highly in superstitions. And to them, if it's said that, talking to a white person about it brings death upon your people, then they're not going to talk about it.
Yeah, I mean, it's like I said when we were talking about the cannibalism thing. Yeah, it's a very superstitious. There's reasons behind everything, and everything has a causality to it. If you talk to this group, or if you don't do this, this is going to happen to your group, your village, your people. So,
right.
I can understand that. That does pose a issue when trying to investigate, especially an area like this. As we've been talking, it's not like walking, into the Everglades in Florida and having a jet boat and being able to contact people that live in and around it and be able to say, hey, we got reports of this. Oh, you're talking about this and this. You're talking about people who are find it spiritually a bad thing to talk to you or show you certain places and things in their culture because it could anger the gods.
Right. And kind of in part to that, I mean, obviously people have gone there. There's been numerous expeditions there. I mean, people from Monster Quest have gone there to shoot one of their episodes. I believe Josh Gates had gone there with when he did Destination Truth, which was still by far one of my favorite shows. I loved it as far as entertainment, value. But so obviously there has been information bestowed upon white explorers, and they have been given descriptions. And tell us a little bit about of what obviously we have learned about the creature. If you want to give kind of a description of the Mokele Mbembe. You.
Well, it's said to be a large territorial herbivore. Mm-hmm. Herbivore means plant eater.
Yes.
I actually,
for those who don't know.
Yeah. I always have to, double check when I say that it means plant eater, and I kind of look and I'm like, right. I know it doesn't mean meat eater.
Yeah.
But it has an elephant-like body with a long neck, tail, and a small head. Now, one of the things is it's been described more closely to resemble the size of an elephant or a rhinoceros, and other known animals to these people.
Mm-hmm.
And it's said to be a gray-brown, and gray or brown in color.
Right. And one of the interesting things, if you don't mind me kind of jumping
Jump
in
on
here, is when some of these explorers had gone into the region and talked to the native people, the pygmies and stuff, they showed them pictures of known creatures. They showed them pictures of elephants. They could identify that. They showed them rhinos. They could identify that, and so on and so forth. But when they showed them a picture of a sauropod, and for those who don't know, sauropods are kind of an infraorder of dinosaurs. Like they're called lizard hip dinosaurs, where they're the long necks, long tails, small heads, relative to the rest of the size of their body, and four thick pillar-like legs. They're notable by their enormous size attained by some species, for example, probably more popular known sauropods are Brachiosauruses, Diplodocus, Apatosauruses, or what were known as Brontosaurus. So, I mean, it's interesting that based off of the fact that they gave these photographic references when they saw the sauropod, that's it.
Yeah. Now, my only problem with that would be you would have to go back to the original time this was done
Mm-hmm.
and see the response.
Right.
Because it's one of those things where if I know you bring stuff to us for our help,
Mm-hmm.
if I basically train my people to identify the thing that we don't have anymore,
Yeah.
and point it out every time a white, or you shouldn't say white, a Western, explorer or team comes through.
Yeah.
And they just keep pointing to the same things and saying, "Oh, that's it there."
Yeah.
You have to go back to that because you're getting secondary or
a tainted response.
yeah, you're getting a tainted response because they know the more we say we see this, the more you people are going to come. The more you people come, the more new things we get.
Right.
Food, clothing, vaccines.
Mm-hmm.
Now, one of the things that always interests me is like the 9 meter long neck, but with a body closer to like a hippopotamus, or between a hippopotamus and an elephant or a rhinoceros.
Right.
And they always say, it has a large head, or small head but large teeth.
Mm-hmm.
And it just like I remember watching years ago on Discovery Channel, something or another. There was an island where they had found pygmy dinosaurs.
Okay.
I believe it was off the coast of California. It may have been off the coast of Africa, even. I'm pretty sure it was California. But because of the size of the available area, these dinosaurs that were in North America, so I'm saying it was California now, the dinosaurs that could be found in the rest of North America, there were some on this island. Either the island broke off at some point or they swam to it. They weren't answering how they got there. They were just addressing that they were there. Right. But they were smaller in size to their original mainland ancestral line. They had actually shrunk down.
Mm-hmm.
So it always makes me kind of wonder, size-wise, in comparison to some of these dinosaurs, because growing up as a little kid, you always think dinosaurs, they had to be gigantic.
Right.
So now to hear people say like between a hippopotamus and an elephant, that kind of to me shrinks down, even though elephants are not small in the, in our current understanding of animal life on the planet, they're not small creatures. But to give a body the size of an elephant and then a long 9-meter long neck with a small head and big teeth, big teeth are generally, I think, used for the, or breaking down leaves in plant life.
Mm-hmm.
So, it just always kind of interests me that has evolution or need created a loophole for these creatures to actually still exist, and by the encroachment and changing of the lands around them, have they generally shrunk down, like the people, and stuff like that? Have they shrunk down to fit a niche in that ecosystem?
Mm-hmm.
It's always something I'm interested in because I grew up loving dinosaurs so much, and like I've always said, I hope Loch Ness Monster is a plesiosaur, and we find it someday, and we don't, there's more of them out there. There have been these reports of these creatures, throughout the world and stuff like that, but it just makes me wonder, have they evolved to a smaller form to fit a niche in their current ecosystem?
Well, if you figure if it truly is a dinosaur, and they say it would have to take at least 1 million years for evolution to truly take shape. You know what I mean? For something to evolve from one thing to another, I'm 99.9% sure they say that you need at least 1 million year gap for an evolutionary change to fully take place. Like evolution couldn't happen in 100,000 years or something like that. I remember doing a report on it a long time ago, and I can't remember if it was the actual number, but it takes a long time for things to evolve to the point where they're changed completely.
Yeah, you have what they consider microevolution and macroevolution.
Right.
So
I
small changes can happen. It doesn't mean it's going to take in that species, though, at times.
Right. But if you figure,
go ahead. I keep jumping on you.
I was going to say. No. I was going to say, if you look at it, if this is truly a dinosaur or a descendant of, it would have been there for all these millions of years. So it could very well have evolved, because if you think about the last era of the dinosaurs, like the Cretaceous period, the atmosphere was much different than it is now. The oxygen levels were much higher. It wasn't at all like it is today. So the animals were able to grow larger. They were able to bring in more oxygen and have their muscles and their bodies and everything grow out. Whereas now, as the earth changed and the atmosphere got more condensed, things could only get so large. That's why the right now the largest animal in the world is thought to be the blue whale, and it got to that size because it's in the ocean and it has, it's able to grow out because it doesn't have so much of that, I guess, the gravitational pull, if you will, like a land mammal would have.
Yeah. I had so many jokes about girls you dated being the largest animals on the face of the planet, but I'm not going to go there.
Well, you did. Thanks.
Yeah. So now the Pygmies and other locals report that this thing lives in, shallow caves on the riverbanks, more active at night, early morning, it gets into that. Of course, it's at night. Now you're talking about people who are less developed, so nighttime is more scary.
Mm-hmm.
Early morning, it's still probably dark in a lot of time of the year. So that's their kind of like habitat, behavioral dwelling area. Now they say it eats mostly, leaves and fruits and nuts and stuff like that. So, it's not, hunting them down at least.
Right, right. Well, if you think about it, like to going back to them saying it's more of a nocturnal than a diurnal creature, if you look in modern cases, like a hippopotamus is more or less an amphibious mammal, if you
Mhm.
will. I mean, it spends most of its time in the water throughout the day to keep it cool, to keep it, hydrated, to stay out of the sun, because hippos, believe it or not, can actually get sunburn. So they stay in the muggy waters just to keep out of the sun, and they actually come out and feed on land throughout the majority of the night. So it wouldn't surprise me in the case of the Mokele Mbembe if it were maybe not necessarily nocturnal, but if it were seen on land more so at night or in the evenings, and where the temperatures are a little bit cooler, the sun's not so strong, it would make sense, and then it would go back into the swamps or the lake or whatever, or the rivers, to keep cool or whatever, keep shaded throughout the day.
But don't reptiles have to sun to warm their blood?
Well, it's still not 100% determined that dinosaurs actually were reptiles. There's still
Yeah.
no proof that they were cold-blooded. You know what I mean? So
Yeah,
this creature could be a warm-blooded creature, even though they laid eggs. Look at the platypus.
I don't want
You know what I mean? Just saying. Take the platypus for example.
I don't want to. You take the platypus for an example. Now, one of the things they do say is it is very furious and protective of its territory.
Hmm.
It has actually. They tell stories that it has actually killed people. It will attack elephants, rhinos, and crocodiles without fear, according to the stories of the locals.
Hmm.
Um, it has capsized boats and killed the occupants. So there definitely is, to me, there definitely indicates that there is something in that area. It's
Right.
not a
It's
legendary thing. I think it is something,
flesh and blood.
yeah, physical.
Yeah. And it's funny that you say that, because all these reports, like all these characteristics of what it does and how it acts territorial wise, the ferocity and whatnot, sounds exactly like a hippo. Because
Yeah.
hippos are actually one of the most deadly creatures in Africa to humans.
Yes.
Very territorial. You go anywhere near them in the water, they do capsize. They will kill you. They have bitten people and drugged them underwater, drowned,
Yeah.
just because of sheer bite force. They've killed people, and there actually has been a lot of times hippos have been seen eating meat, like eating the remains, like when the wildebeest would have their migrations. I mean, there's millions of them, and a lot of them drown, a lot of them get washed down, and there's actually, I've seen documentaries where hippos were eating them. They go after crocodiles, they bite crocodiles, you know what I mean? And actually, I saw a documentary where a bull hippo actually ate the rotting corpse of a baby that it killed that was from the previous dominant bull. So, I mean, a lot of these reports sound an awful lot like a hippopotamus. And if I read things correctly, hippos aren't common in that area of the Congo.
Yeah, from what I remember reading, um, yeah, there. I don't think hippos are common, if at all, in that area. I know they.
Mm-hmm.
I believe they do have rhinoceroses and they do have elephant in that area, but I do not believe hippos are a native to that part of Africa.
Yeah, which even the rhinos surprised me, because the elephants I know venture in and out of the jungled areas of Africa, but rhinos are typically more of the savanna, of the plains, not so much the jungle areas, but
Yeah,
still interesting.
yeah. I mean, I think that's one of the things. Now they do say, I you do bring up an interesting point there. With it does sound a lot like a hippo, and if hippos aren't necessarily known to those people on a cultural level, the only problem is, how do you explain the 9-meter long neck?
Well, if you think about a partially submerged elephant, if you said the deepest areas of the lakes are about 13 feet,
Yeah.
right? So you figure an elephant is roughly a little taller than that, and if he's underwater in the deeper areas, you'll see the its head, which would look like the back, and then his trunk would be up, and usually in like a serpentine like
You're good.
position. Yeah.
Yeah.
So you know what I mean? It would look like the
That would
shape of
an elephant, yes, but a
yeah.
hippopotamus
But actually, according
behavioral.
to the World Wildlife Federation, or
WWF.
yeah, um, the animals in the Congo, a mosaic of rivers, forests, savannas, swamps flooded the Congo Basin and is teeming with life. Gorillas, elephants, and buffalo all call the region home. Let's see. Mountain gorilla, river gorilla, bonobo monkeys, chimpanzees, forest elephants, but there's no mention of. Yeah, we have the chimpanzee, cross river gorilla, mountain gorilla, African elephant, forest elephant, their subspecies, lowland gorilla, eastern lowland gorilla, bonobos, which is another branch of the chimpanzee family, chimpanzees. Yeah, okay, so it's all the same things sprawling around. So I don't see hippo or rhinoceros
Yeah.
in any of these reports.
Now, one of the one of the things with a lot of the African cryptid dinosaur, relic dinosaur population stories is actually the word in their dialects for rhinoceros is a lot of times the same word or the word is used in the names of a lot of the relic dinosaur population, cryptid dinosaurs of Africa. A lot of times it's a different form of rhinoceros, but they consider them rhinoceri. Now, one of the things was there is a contradiction in the identity to the yeah, I'm not going to try it even tonight. Because I'm just going to butcher it. If I try to say it, I butcher it. If I don't try to say it, it comes flying out of my mouth. No problem.
For what now? You're trying to pronounce
Mokele. Huh?
Say it.
Mokele Mbembe.
I love it.
The Boha people did actually identify a rhinoceros as being the creature.
Right.
Now, I guess basically this was from the BBC Discovery Channel documentary on the Congo. Now, this wasn't a cryptozoology-based documentary. This was a documentary based on just the animal life of the Congo, the kind of myth and legend and all of the area. One of the things was, and actually here it says, neither species of the African rhinoceros is common in the Congo Basin. So now some of the people also in that group refer to it more as a spiritual or mythological creature than flesh and blood. So that is one group of people that they've kind of put it off as it's more of a spirit animal type situation than a physical animal, but yet they put it off as a spirit animal, but yet identify a rhinoceros as the animal.
Right.
Also. Right. Yeah, so it's one of those things where, again, rhinoceros, like I said, in a lot of the African stories, the rhinoceros name and from the different dialects in the different African languages, it always rolls back to some kind of rhinoceros name. So, it's interesting, but you think of some dinosaurs with horns and stuff like that could easily be kind of taken as a rhinoceros, or a relic population of these things might actually be some kind of offshoot of rhinoceros, not dinosaur.
Right, right. That's true. Well, like, and part of that BBC Discovery documentary, they did say that it could be a mixture of mythology and folk memory from a time when rhinoceroses might have been found in that area. So it could have just been like a like you're saying, kind of like a spiritual or folktale mythological creature passed down through the traditions that used to be in the area.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So the history of this, me, I love history. I love doing that part of the
What are the
research.
oldest reports of the old Mokele Mbembe?
The oldest report on record is now, of course, this is the oldest report on record for Western, society and civilization. It comes from a French priest, and it comes from his book called Natural History of the Congo. Of course, it wasn't called that originally. It was called the French version of that.
Right. What was his
It was,
name?
huh?
What was the priest's name?
Bonaventure. Father Bonaventure.
What was his full name?
Yeah, not even going to try it. Abe Levin Bonaventure play it yet?
Abbe Levon Bonaventure Proyart. We'll go with
Oh,
that.
yeah. Oh, somebody took French in high school.
French won 2 years in a row, baby.
Yeah, because you needed both. I'm not. Whatever. You from now on, you can do all the French. Then that sounds good to me.
Go. All right.
And this was while he was working as a missionary. He observed tracks. Now he never saw the animal. He only saw tracks from the animal. Monstrous size. I'm reading his little. It's page 39 of his book mentions. While walking through the forest, missionaries have observed tracks of an unseen animal, which should be of monstrous size. His claws have left footprints approximately 3 feet in circumference. They did not see it and could not tell whether it was walking or running, but the distance between the footprints was 7 foot. Now, a 3-foot round foot, 7 foot apart.
That's big.
Yeah, that's a bigger than any elephant footprint. I can almost guarantee that. And then in 1909, Carl Hagenbeck, saw. Let's see here. He mentions it in the Beast and Men autobiography of famed big game hunter. He claimed to have heard from multiple independent sources about a creature living in the Congo region, which was described as half elephant, half dragon. He had spoken to.
Definitely sound like a sauropod.
Yeah.
Half elephant, half dragon. That's a dinosaur.
Pretty much. I mean, you don't get many differences in in ways of describing it. It's size and a mythological creature. Now he had spoken to some people that were living in Africa and had been missionaries in Africa, and basically they described to him some kind of dinosaur akin to the Brontosaurus, which of course, like Les has said earlier, has now been renamed.
The Apatosaurus.
Huh?
I said the Brontosaurus is now the Apatosaurus.
Yeah, which is kind of depressing because as a kid, this
Brontosaurus was my favorite.
Yeah, they start renaming all the dinosaurs now that we're older, and like we have kids and we have to go, what's that one called again?
Oh, Lily knows them all. She's got it covered.
Yeah. So that takes us into, and one of the things that he actually goes into that area and tries to hunt this down, or was just hunting big game in the area at the time.
Mhm.
He noted that there was a lack of hippopotami, hippopotamus. But his native guide had actually informed him that there was a large hippo killing creature that lived in the lake. However,
Yes.
tribal testimony is at best unreliable.
Hmm.
Especially in that point again, like I said, if I know the more stories I tell you, the more you come here, the more I get from you, the more I'm going to
Right.
tell you those stories.
True.
Yeah.
Very true.
Now, here's the thing. It did make, a minor sensation in, the mass media of the time. Newspapers in Europe and North America carried many articles on the subject in 1910, 1911. And, some of them took it at face value that these reports were, 100% true. And, there was other, people that covered it in a more skeptical tone and stuff like that over the years.
Hmm.
So, knowing that time frame with, media coverage and stuff like that, um, yeah, I could see how, most people couldn't identify, these areas of Africa at that point. You got to realize um, the map of Africa was actually created by the Europeans, not by the Africans
Hmm.
of the different countries. The Europeans basically sat down and drew lines and said, okay, this is the French parts of Africa, this is the British parts of Africa, this is the Spanish or, whatnot parts of Africa. So there are a lot of, cross country, different ethnic groups in Africa that are, basically now on foreign, in foreign countries. So a lot of people in Europe couldn't even really describe or tell you anything that happened in Africa in the early 1900s.
True.
Felt like I
One of
was
the things that
losing
I
my point.
found, yeah, one of the things that I found kind of interesting talking about the history, it is said that, several white or Western people have claimed they have met the animal themselves, including Ivan Sanderson in 1932. And for anybody in the cryptozoology world that is interested in, like, I guess, some of the forebearers or the forefathers of cryptozoology, Ivan T. Sanderson is in fact a cryptozoologist, and he claimed that while in Cameroon in 1932, he witnessed an enormous creature in the Manu River or the Manu River. The creature was seemingly badly wounded, was only briefly visible as it lurched into the water. Darkly colored, the animal's head alone was nearly the size of a hippo, which that sounds odd to most of the other reports about the small head.
Yeah.
Um, but according to Sanderson, his native guides termed the creature Mokele Mbembe in Sanderson's phonetic spelling, which was M apostrophe Koo M apostrophe Bemboo. Mokele Mbembe. So I thought that was kind of neat, though, that Sanderson was there, and I mean he wrote a book about the Abominable Snowman, which I
Mm-hmm.
have, I think, one of his first editions. Good book, good reference book.
Mm-hmm.
So one of the other stories that we are talking about from an explorer that was there was it was thought that one of the Mokele Mbembes had actually been killed. One of the creatures have actually been killed. Now, according to a post on theanomalous.com by William Gibson, or Gibbons, I'm sorry. Now, to give a background of Mr. Gibbons' credibility, he conducted two major expeditions into the Congo in 1985 and 86 and in 1992 in search of the Mokele Mbembe. Well, as two other field investigations on the island of Mauritius, I guess I'm probably killing that. Um, in the southern Indian Ocean, and in 1990 and in 1997, after 2 European visitors claimed dodo sightings, he went in to investigate them as well. But Operation Congo 3 is currently under development, and he's currently pursuing a PhD in cultural anthropology with Warrenburg College in Oxford. But he says, quote, I can confirm that at least 2 of the pygmies who were directly involved in the killing of a Mokele Mbembe at Lake Tele about 3 decades ago were acquainted on a personal level with missionary pastor Eugene P. Thomas. He had discussed this incident with Pastor Thomas and was able to confirm most of the details of the story, which follows. Around 1960, the first dwelling pygmies of Lake Tele region, the Bangombe tribe, fished daily in the lake near the Malobas, or water channel situated at the north end of the lake. These channels merge with the swamps, which you were talking about before, about how they were fed by smaller creeks and rivers, and were used by the Mokele Mbembe to enter the lake where they would browse on vegetation. This daily excursion into the lake by the animals disrupted the pygmies' fishing activities. Eventually, the pygmies decided to erect a stake barrier across the Malobo in order to prevent the animals from entering the lake. When 2 of the animals were observed attempting to break through the barrier, the pygmies speared one of the animals to death and later cut it into pieces. This task apparently took several days due to the size of the animal, which was described as being bigger than a forest elephant with a long neck, a small snake-like or lizard-like head, which was decorated with a comb-like frill in the back, which is interesting because what we know of an Apatosaurus or Brontosaurus, they didn't have any kind of frill or anything. Yeah. It was just the head backed into a smooth, long neck. The pygmy spearmen also described a long, flexible tail and smooth reddish-brown skin and 4 stubby but powerful legs with clawed toes. Pastor Thomas also mentioned that the 2 pygmies mimicked the cry of the animal as it was being attacked and speared. And on one of the websites, actually it was on the Anomalous, they had the audio recording, and I played it, and honestly, it sounded like static. Like I heard nothing from it. Yeah. So I didn't feel it was pertinent to put it on my phone to try and play it for everybody. But I do have a picture of what, like an illustration of what they described the creature in the pygmy. So I'll bring it up quick. So that's an illustrated depiction of the pygmies battling the Mokele Mbembe as it tried to break through their little stick fence. But later, a victory feast was held during which parts of the animal were cooked and eaten. However, those who participated in the feast eventually died either from food poisoning or from natural causes. It should be noted that pygmies rarely live beyond 35, and pygmy women give birth from age 12. He also believed that the mythification, magical powers, etc., surrounding Mokele Mbembe began with this incident. Pygmy informants also mentioned that there were at least 2 Mokele Mbembes still living after they had killed that one in Lake Tele, but they were simply too afraid to take them to a precise location where they could actually film and observe a specimen. But due to their superstitious beliefs surrounding the animals and fears of reprisal, they didn't keep anybody. They didn't take any of the explorers to the location. So supposedly one has been killed. Now, I don't know whatever happened to the remains. That's one of the things that I kind of question as well. What happened to the, I mean, obviously they ate some of it, but typically something like that, if they killed it, they would leave it. They would almost make a shrine out of it, you know what I mean, as their trophy piece, you know, and would have at least kept the skull or something.
The, I had actually looked that up because that, yeah, also if they killed and ate one of them, there would be a carcass, you know, bones and whatnot left over because they wouldn't be eating the bones. But basically, the environment in that area is such that the bones and stuff would actually be dissolved within a few years of them being exposed. So they would end up...
So the jungle would more or less take it over.
Yeah.
With all the leaf litter and everything, it would have just basically, like you said, absorbed into the ground.
Yeah. Now, one of the things I know they actually left the stakes up that
Hmm.
were used to keep them from getting in, and they used it as like some kind of tribal, you know, monument to the people who had, killed it and died from eating it,
Yeah.
according, to some of the Western explorers that had checked it out within the years after that.
Hmm.
Uh, so to continue the history, it brings us to Roy Mackal from the 1980s. Him and Powell did research in this area. Um, Now they worked in
There.
the area near the isolated Lake Tele.
Uh,
Uh,
that was the expedition that was on that TV show, right? Back in the day. Oh yeah, you have it in the notes there. The Mysterious World, Arthur C. Clarke's
yeah,
Mysterious
with
World.
Arthur C. Clarke.
Yeah, yeah, I remember that.
Hmm. Yeah, I was I was thinking not Arthur C. Clarke. I was thinking In Search of.
Yeah, yeah, with Leonard Nimoy.
But yeah, this was an Arthur C. Clarke one. I remember us, seeing this like in grade school on one of those film days. But
Oh yeah, those were the days.
now they interviewed several people who had claimed to have seen the creature. Uh, Now they the description they're given, the animal was 15 to 30 feet long. Uh, Most of that a snake-like head and neck, plus a long, thin tail. Body reminiscent of a hippopotamus, only bigger, more
Mm-hmm.
bulbous. Of course, they had these people look at pictures of, sauropods, and when the people were shown the pictures of the sauropods, they start pointing at that and saying, "Yes, that's what we see. That's what we see."
Mm-hmm.
Um, Now, again, I'm not sure if that was the first time they were shown a dinosaur,
Yeah,
to be able to
I don't know.
identify it or not, but you know,
Well, it goes back to what you said before. You'd almost have to be there for the first interaction with a picture of a dinosaur to say, "Is this what you see?" Or do any of these look like it? You
yeah.
know, it's God, excuse me. See which one they pick.
So now, Mackle returns in '81 with
Mm-hmm.
Jack Bryant this time, basically going into the same area, and they were on this trip. They were unable to reach the lake,
Hmm.
but he had gathered more details on cryptids and other possible living dinosaurs in that area. Now, when the people had given him these names, they had basically given them seven different cryptids at that point,
Mm-hmm.
or basically undiscovered species. Well, when they gave him the seven, three of them turned out to be real creatures. So
Okay.
three brand new um, animals were discovered, new species were discovered from the seven that they claim inhabit this area.
Hmm.
So there's a gigantic turtle
The
that has a
Ndendeki.
yeah, Endendeki.
Mm-hmm.
Endendeki, which is a
Ndendeki.
giant turtle, which is some of them have a shell of, I think they said 1 to 2 meters. Their
Yeah.
shells are actually at times used for um, were used for shields in some of the tribes back in the day. Um, there was a giant crocodile of 15 meters discovered.
Mahamba.
Mahamba. And a giant, what they call a giant monkey eating eagle.
Isn't that the harpy eagle, or is that in South America?
I think the
Is that one
harpy.
down in? I
I
think it's
think
down in
harpy
South
South
America.
America. Yeah.
Yeah, because that one eats the little monkeys down there, and that one is the Ngoima, is what the natives called it.
I'm glad I keep you around to pronounce words that I wouldn't even want to try to.
Hey, you know what? I'm good for something, I guess.
Well, you're a great artist.
Oh, enough about me. Uh, but it looks like their second expedition though didn't really turn anything up other than those new species. I mean, as far as the Mokele Mbembe goes, it doesn't
Well,
seem like anything has changed.
they basically had one. This was their one and only close encounter. They feel.
Hmm.
It occurred while they were on the river. They heard a loud splash and saw what uh, Dr. Greenwell had described as a large wake about 5 inches, or that should probably be feet, um, from the east bank of the river that they were on. And basically, he asserted that it must have, the wake must have been caused by an animated object.
Hmm.
That it was unlikely a crocodile or a hippo, and noted that it occurred at a sharp river bend. According to natives, that frequently the creature is seen in that area and lives there due to the deep water at those points.
Hmm.
So there was a little bit of, I think it's one of those ones where it was enough to wet their beak, but not the crystal clear, we finally saw it this time moment.
Hmm. Yeah, he then Mackle then went on to write that book, A Living Dinosaur.
Mm-hmm.
And he detailed his expeditions about the Mokele Mbembe, and he tried unsuccessfully to raise funds for an additional trip to Africa. So that was unfortunate.
Yeah.
And I think
Now,
there was, I'm sorry.
for people, again, we were talking about like kind of the early cryptozoology forebearers and stuff like that. Roy Mackle was one of the founding members of the International Cryptozoology Society, and later
Mm-hmm.
went on to be the president of it after Hoovelman died.
Mm-hmm.
Which was the Okepi as their logo.
Yeah, yeah, which is now a known species.
Yeah, which is actually not that far removed from this area of Africa is where they discovered it.
Mm-hmm. The okapi, yeah. And it looks like, for anybody who doesn't know, it looks kind of like a mix between a giraffe and a zebra. It's kind of a
Hmm.
culmination of all different kinds of animals. It's very, very
Just
unique.
just one drunk night between a giraffe and a zebra,
That's
and
all it
that's what you
takes.
got.
Now, aside from the Mokele and Mbembe, are there any other cryptids that live in that region?
Basically, now, like I said, the natives had given 7 names. Three of them were already, or three of them since have been
Are now
discovered, are known.
documented.
Yeah. Um, there are other. There is another dinosaur reported to live in this area.
Hmm.
Uh, Basically, the translation from the Bantu language is the um, the one that eats the tops of the palms.
Hmm.
Or there's another variant translation that is killer of elephants.
And what does Mokele and Mbembe translate to? The one that stops the flow of rivers?
Yes.
That's what I thought.
Yeah,
For
the
those who
one who
didn't know.
stops the flow of rivers. I think there was another translation also that I had seen for Mokele Mbembe. Yeah, I don't think I have it in my notes here. There was, I think, yeah, there was a secondary translation for that. Of course, you can't have just one translation for a dialect
Of course
because,
not.
of course, they use different different sound enunciations to create different words. Like I said, the rhinoceros is, tied to most African dinosaur stories by name.
So what you were talking about some of the other cryptids, was that it? I mean, aren't there other dinosaur-like creatures there?
Yeah, there's the eater of the tops of palms, and there were several other stories that come now, not necessarily from this piece of Africa, but come from other parts of Africa, that involve, dinosaurs or what we as Western civilization take as dinosaur type stories coming out of that area. I think Natuka is the rhinoceros in a lot of African dialects, and somewhere in that, basically Natuka means rhinoceros, but a lot of the other ones, Imila Natuka is the eater of the tops of palms.
So most likely another long neck kind of dinosaur to reach up the top. Well, I know there's other local legends there too of different unknown creatures that span throughout that region as well, that are not just the Mokele Mbembe, but all in all, it would be really cool to be able to get out there and I mean, now this is wishful thinking and pipe dream, but it would be really cool to be able to get out there and do an investigation of our own and see what we could dig up. But honestly, I don't know if I would have the guts to go over there, to be perfectly honest with you. Not just I'm not worried so much about the creature or anything. I'm more worried about disease. I'm more worried about the gorillas, not the animal ones, but like the what do you want to call them? Like the rebel people there that fight against the government.
Yeah,
gorillas,
rebel
however you
gorillas.
pronounce it. Yeah. I'd be more worried about them abducting us and trying to hold us for ransom. And once they found out that we aren't worth shit, they'd kill us. I'd be more worried about that and disease and venomous creatures than I would the actual Mokele Mbembe. And I'd be terrified to go into that water knowing all the crocodiles that are in there. So I think that's one I'll leave to somebody else.
I think the only thing that would really get me is the whole variant of viruses and diseases that come out of that area of the world.
Yeah.
I mean, the gorilla, the rebel gorilla type things, they come and go. Crocodiles don't bother me. I had a pet alligator.
Sully, God rest your soul.
Yeah, my buddy Sully. But yeah, I don't think I'd ever be scared to see a vegetable eating dinosaur. Counting that would probably be the highlight of my entire childhood. I would
be the highlight of your freaking life. Are you kidding me? To actually see a creature like that would be, oh my God, it'd be a dream come true. Yeah. I would just be deathly terrified of the area. And not to mention the fact that, the pygmy people are quite hostile themselves. You know what I mean? You piss them off and you're in the middle of nowhere. They kill you and nobody's going to, it'd be too late. But, yeah, the disease, I think, is what would scare me the most, and the creepy crawlies that are highly poisonous that you can't see.
Yeah, and when you're swimming in that water and you ever watch that show Monster Inside Me or whatever?
Oh God, yeah.
All the things that swim up the pee hole. I don't think I'd ever want to swim in those areas for sure.
You get a micro Mokele Mbembe in your ding dong, and it's all downhill from there.
Yeah. Yeah, I think. I mean, just the diseases alone kind of make me never really ever. Not that I would never want to go to Africa, but I just think the diseases alone kind of always get me that.
Yeah, I mean, I have friends that have traveled over there numerous times, and that's all fine and good. But I'm okay with just watching that continent on TV. You know
Yeah,
what I mean? I really don't. That's one continent that I really don't care to visit, like the entire continent.
yeah. I mean, I think they do a great job with like the BBC and the Discovery Channel and all these other,
Oh yeah, absolutely.
documentary networks. They do a good job covering Africa. I don't really think I need to go there.
Mhm. Yeah, I'm quite content with sticking to the cryptids in our own country, so I'm good with that. But I guess
Yeah.
long story. We're over our hour and a half mark here, so I think there's not really much more we could say about the Mokele Mbembe. But I did think it was an interesting topic, and it is like you said, it's a childhood fantasy to be able to think that the possibility of a dinosaur still living today is absolutely fascinating, and I truly hope that someday one is found, and they document it, on film and not try and capture it and
Yeah.
showcase it in a zoo somewhere. But
Well, I think that goes back to that's why Jurassic Park, the book, the movie series has done so well. I think because a lot of us, we grew up with those dinosaur books and illustration books of dinosaurs and stuff like that. And to actually have a chance to experience, seeing a living dinosaur would, I mean, I would pay for a ticket, whatever the
oh my
price would
god,
be.
yeah, yeah. Well, I just like I said, I hope that if one is discovered, it's left alone. But I tell you what, I would have to. I would need the grace of God to help me keep my daughter from wanting to go over there and find one. Because you said about reliving childhood fantasies, I relive mine all the time through my kids, and like my oldest daughter, Liliana, is infatuated with dinosaurs. In fact, since the time she could talk, she wanted to be a paleontologist. She still, thank God, at 7 years old, still wants to be a paleontologist, and I truly hope that continues until she, as she gets older. She loves animals and is, like I said, infatuated with dinosaurs. And I get to buy her all the new dinosaur toys, and the dinosaur toys today are so detailed and just really exquisite, and
Yeah.
I don't hesitate to buy them. I mean, they're not cheap, mind you,
Oh,
but
no.
I don't hesitate to buy them because I get to play with her, and I get to play with the toys. So
Oh,
it's kind of a
I took,
win-win.
yeah, I took my niece, my wife and I took our niece to Dinosaur Land in, I think it's like Roseland, Texas area or something like that. It's
Mhm.
just like a big, they found dinosaur, they have dig sites and they found some footprints in this area, dinosaur footprints that
Mm,
were,
cool.
left over. But they have a dinosaur land. And as soon as I heard they had dinosaur land, I'm like, so when are we taking her? And
Yeah.
I'm like walking around taking pictures, and I mean, it is not anywhere near high tech or, like I've been through the Disney stuff when it was new and the
Yep.
different
Yep.
places over the years, like walking with dinosaurs, when they do the tours with that and stuff like that, the museums with the animatronic dinosaurs. These dinosaurs were nowhere near even that level, but I was like, just kid all over again,
Oh
like
God.
clicking pictures and
Yeah, we
you
took
know,
Lily down to Orlando, Florida, and there's a dinosaur world or whatever dinosaur. I don't know what it was, some kind of dinosaur land down there, and it was like almost lifelike or life size. They look like paper mache statues. Like they were horrible. But like you said, it was so cool to go through there and to see my daughter's eyes light up, and she, we got billions of pictures of her standing underneath them and whatnot. That was great. And we took her to those dinosaur experiment things, experience things
yeah,
every time they come around, and they're cool. Although regretfully, they had the Jurassic World at the Franklin Institute in Philadelphia. And we
Yeah.
wanted to get down there so badly, and unfortunately, we didn't get there. I felt like a shit parent at that point because I was like, the thing my daughter loves the most, and I didn't get to take her to it. I felt really bad, but that Walking with Dinosaurs, I hope comes around again, and I'd have to take her to see that.
Yeah,
I
I
think it's
took
over in Japan now.
yeah,
That
I took
show.
my daughter when they first started doing that. I took my daughter to that, and I think I took her more so I could go and not look like a creepy old person walking around looking at the dinosaurs. Like she
Yeah.
liked dinosaurs, and she'd be like, "Yeah, Daddy, that's cool," and she'd just like want to play, and I'm like, "But do you see that one? Do you see how it moves? Do you see, you know,
Yeah. Well, buddy, I think we could wrap it up. What do you think?
yeah, I think we're pretty good. I mean, there's a few other things in here, but I mean, the only other real report that had anything, and it's not anything better than the rest or anything like that, was, you know, there were some audio recorded of what they claimed to be the
Yeah, like
creature.
I heard it, and it was I honestly didn't hear anything. It was
Yeah,
just like a almost like a sonar sound kind of. It was hard to kind of depict any noise out of it, so I didn't
yeah,
feel it'd be pertinent.
I would love to hear the original, like undoctored, and actually just like hear the
Right.
full recording of everything that was going on. Um, but that was the only other bit of information that there is a possible recording. Now, there is, I believe, a piece of film that shows something going across Lake Tele at some point, in like
Mhm.
'92. Um, how true that piece of footage is and whatnot, you know, it was filmed in '92, but I don't think it really surfaced until much later than that they had something there. So that always makes me question the authenticity on it.
Right, right.
Yeah. But yeah, I think
Oh, gee.
hopefully we covered it.
I actually think I have the 92 footage of the Mokele Mbembe. I think I found it. I'll put it in the show notes for everybody. Hopefully it's not like a fake link to porn or anything. I apologize if it is.
Yeah. Yeah, we would never
I put it in the
intentionally do
comment.
that. But
No, no. Let's see. One thing I do. There are some related links. One of them you had sent me is the 1984 interview with Roy Mackle. I'm gonna put
yeah,
that
it's a very good
in the
interview.
comments. Yep, I'll put that out there for anybody who wants to check it out. And Living Dinosaurs of the Congo is another thing that's kind of cool to check out. And then you guys could kind of take off from there and watch whatever else you want to watch. So
Yeah.
I'll end off the show again. If you want to get in touch with us, you want to tell us a show topic, any experiences you have, or anything like that, you could reach us at our website, www.explorersgroup.com, on Twitter at Explorers Group, here on Facebook, facebook.com/Explorers Group. This is wrong. I do apologize. So check us out on any one of those outlets. And we do have a YouTube channel, and we would really appreciate it if you guys go out and subscribe and, follow us on YouTube. So without anything else, I just want to say thank you, everybody who joined us tonight. At Cleo, you're always there. Thank you. Thank you very much. We totally appreciate that. So yeah, I enjoyed the show. It was a great topic. And Chad, thank you as always for being my co-host and best friend. So that's it for me.
Okay, well, yep. Thank you guys. Thank you to Les for joining and co-piloting this ship at times. And as Les said, you can get in contact with us through all the different social media channels. If you forget, go to our website and work your way out from there. All of them are linked to that. So,
Mm-hmm.
until next time, see you guys later, and hope you guys have a safe and fun weekend. Talk to you later.
See you next week. Good night.